The random drug testing has been a long process. This has been going on for 2 years here in Waldwick. Dr. Penna initially started it, spearheaded it. Myself, as you said, came to him and really wanted to see this move forward. Dr. Ropers, when she came on board this last year, we had a committee which was made up of school administrators, teachers, parents, who met 3 times to discuss the pros and cons. In the end, a recommendation was made from that committee to the Board of Education, who has adopted the random drug testing policy for a 1-year period next year, where we will reevaluate and see how effective it was or if it is worthwhile to continue. It's been a goal of mine to get this here at the high school. This program is not intended to play gotcha, to try to catch people in illegal activity or drinking or doing things that minors should not be doing. It is to give the students an outlet, a way to say no, and to try to avoid those peer pressure situations. All we want to do is make sure that we do not have something serious happen to a Waldwick student with an overdose, a drunk driving incident, something that will affect all of us in a negative way. There are other schools in the state of New Jersey doing this. There is good track record for it, and we think it's going to be a real positive thing here for Waldwick High School. A couple of things, I'm going to hit on a couple of points tonight, just that are connected with our school policy. The policy is available online. If you have not got a chance to review it, you can. It is under the athletics department, under the forms tab. All of our athletes will be included in the random drug testing pool. Any senior who wants to park on campus, and anyone involved in any extracurricular activity or club, that could be going from the chess club, student council, band, all of the things that we offer at the high school. A parent can also volunteer their child to be in the program if they're not involved, okay, as a way for them to be proactive with them to try to avoid the drugs and alcohol situation. The testing will be done by an outside company. We investigated over 5 or 6 companies. We spoke to them. We will be going with Quest Diagnostic as our person here. Someone will come on site, collect the sample from the student in a secured bathroom, unsupervised by anybody. They will be in the bathroom by themselves. The water will be turned off. The water inside will be diluted so they will not be able to tamper with the sample. If they do tamper with the sample in any way, that would become an automatic positive. The test is then handed over to the Quest Diagnostic rep. It is labeled in front of the student and myself, and then sent out to the lab to be screened. Results will be sent back within 48 hours to us and to the parents. Each student will be given a random ID number. That ID number will be put into an Excel document, and I will do a random search for how we selected 6 students per month that will be tested. Okay? It will not be, someone said to me there was a party this weekend and so-and-so was there. This will strictly be random. Totally, we're on the line this year. We're being watched. You can be assured that that will be totally random, and that what 6 numbers come out on top will be referenced to our list, and those are the 6 students that will be picked. If somebody is absent, we will go to the 7th person on the list. Ms. Yusa will be speaking a little bit in regards to what the test will cover, the different types. It's a 10-panel screening. We'll go over all those different types of drugs. Once the test is administered, if there is a question with the results, there is a positive, we have a medical review officer that will be assigned to our school. He will call the parent and say that the results were positive for a certain level. At that point, you would be able to tell the doctor that your child has a prescription for a certain medication, and you would have to confirm that with the doctor, and that would be grounds for the MRO offer to say that this is not a positive result. So you do have that opportunity if there is some medical issue that we're not aware of and our school nurse is not aware of that comes out on the test. If the test is positive, there are consequences with it. At no time will the student miss any academic work. We are not suspending them from school. We want them in class. We want them to continue to learn. For the first offense, they will be suspended for 10 days from their activity. Whether that be a team, a club, they will not be able to participate with that team in events. They also will have to see Ms. Huseth 3 times within that time span to make sure that they're receiving some type of drug or alcohol counseling. It is also at the discretion of the parents if they would like to send them for outside counseling as well. That is on your expense, not the district's, but that would just be another step in taking to make sure that your child gets the proper attention they need. Students may be required to provide a negative sample upon returning if they are negative. That will be at the discretion of myself. My plan now, so everyone is aware, is that all first violators, I will not be asking for that submission. Anyone who violates the policy second or third or for that will have to provide a negative to return to school. Second positive would be a 60-day suspension from their activity. Okay? As well as 3 counseling sessions with Ms. Huseth and a recommendation that some type of outside counseling be provided by the family. All of these are cumulative. So if someone has an offense their freshman year and then they get pulled again their senior year and they're positive, that would then be their second offense within high school. So it carries over. It's not after 1 year we move on and we start fresh. It continues through them. The cost of the test, in my mind, I feel is minimal. It's going to cost us around $2,200 for the year to do our testing. We think it's well worth it if we can save one child's life through this process or make them choose or go down the right path. I believe it's worth it, and I think the school community does as well. At this time, I'm going to have Ms. Huseth say a few things just about trends in the drug and alcohol scene, some symptoms or signs that you may be able to look for within your child.
Thanks to all of you for coming out tonight. I know it's hard to do that in a busy week like this, but I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk to you a little bit about kids and drugs in general, and then I'll go over some of the things that are covered in our panel. I think that the biggest myth, and the reason that we did random drug testing, is that only certain types of kids get involved with drugs and alcohol. That's a myth. That's always been a myth, but as I've done this now for 14 years here in this district, I can honestly say that there is no profile to who uses drugs and alcohol. Good kids, bad kids, everyone in between. Functional families, dysfunctional families, one-parent households, two-parent households, it doesn't matter. Kids whose siblings never touched it, kids whose siblings have touched it. There's no profile to the kid who uses drugs and alcohol. Anyone is susceptible. It's really a very equal opportunity disease. Predispositions play a piece in it. Peer groups play a part in it. And I know that some people feel like, well, our kids are involved, and doesn't that mean that they're not going to get involved in drugs and alcohol? But unfortunately, that's not always the answer. If that was, we would just mandate that everybody be involved in an activity, and it would be a lot easier. But the truth is that good kids, involved kids, athletes, honor students are involved with drugs and alcohol just as much as any other child. So all of our children are susceptible because they get involved for lots of different reasons. I mean, certainly the traditional child who's isolated and doesn't feel involved and maybe has family problems can certainly be a victim to drugs and alcohol, but that's not the only reason. They experiment, sometimes just for pleasure. We have to, face the reality that drugs do make them feel good. So despite all our interventions and telling them it's going to kill them, it's going to do this, it's going to do that, when they meet up with somebody who has them at a party and they drink a little and they feel great that night and their inhibitions are lowered, everything we said just went out the window. So honestly, there's no particular profile. We have to keep that in the back of our minds. They get involved for pleasure, they get involved to be part of a group, not necessarily because they're being pressured by their peers, but because they don't want to be different from their peers. They get involved because sometimes they see us do it. They get involved because they're trying to just fit in with everybody else. So I think we have to kind of dispel that myth that only a certain type of child is going to be involved in this. All children, almost all of our kids, will be exposed to this at some time or another. And we certainly do the best that we can, and I know you guys do the best that you can, to give them the tools that they need to avoid or stay away from it. Random drug testing is just another tool. So when we talk about how kids learn, we talk about the way they learn in different ways. Some of them learn better verbally, some of them, need to write things down. So we have to give them the same kind of tools to avoid drugs and alcohol. So we educate them, we talk to them, we do lesson plans, we bring in DARE. I use peers to go in and speak with the younger kids and help them and try to guide them in the right direction. Random drug testing is really designed to give kids another outlet to be able to say, you know what, I have something I really want to do. I want this club, I want this activity, I want this sport. This isn't worth it for me. Will it work for every child? No. Will it work for a lot of kids? Yes, because in talking to the students about this, which I did do a great deal of through the last years that we've been working on it, a lot of them have said that it probably would make a big difference for them in making a decision as to what they get involved in. So as long as we keep in mind that curiosity, rebelliousness, peer pressure, dysfunction, fitting in are all parts of adolescent life, then we really probably realize that all of our kids are possibly susceptible to getting involved with drugs and alcohol. And therefore, we just have to give them a lot of different tools. Education, talking to them, teachable moments, and most importantly, especially for those of you who have students first coming into the high school, we have to be really good role models because they certainly watch everything that we do. So if we speak to them, talk to them, and help them to come up with scenarios, ways to avoid this, random drug testing fits in nicely and gives them just another tool in their tool belt to be able to walk away and say, I'm not going to do this. If anybody wants to take a look online, Mr. Carroll has posted a packet that I put together for you. The packet is a little education on kids who get involved in drugs and alcohol, some of the signs and symptoms that you can look for. I think, unfortunately, the same signs and symptoms that we see in kids using drugs or alcohol are also the same signs and symptoms that we see in a lot of adolescent issues. But if you start to notice a lot of different things, please don't hesitate to make a phone call and ask for our help or run it by us, and we can try to let you know if we think something might be going on. I can meet with your student confidentially. Some of the signs and symptoms that are evident are, lowering school grades, sudden change in friends, apathy, not being interested in things, a lot of sudden illnesses or sicknesses, catching your children lying about things, a sudden interest in drug paraphernalia or drawing the pictures about drugs and things related to things like that. Those are just a few of some of the more major symptoms. Unfortunately, it's very hard to detect. Our children are really unbelievably good at covering up their use, even if it's, whether it's weekend use or regular use. I don't want you to think that, you're on it, I'm checking, I always see. It's definitely not going to get by me. It gets by a lot of us. And I'm sure there's some of us out there that know that. We're good people, we're good parents, and I know you all try your hardest. Doesn't mean that it won't get by you. So don't hesitate if at any time you start to notice a cluster of those things happening, please feel free to call. I've met with lots of different kids at different times at the request of a parent just to catch up and see if anything might be happening or give them, a gut instinct if something's happening. So keep aware of what's going on with your kids. Check what they're doing on their phones. Check what they're doing on the computer. Keep an eye on their friends. And if you think something's not going right, trust your gut instinct and reach out, and we'll try to figure it out together. On the packet that's going to be posted for you also gives you a rundown on a lot of different substances. We did a survey and we got our results, and of course alcohol and marijuana have traditionally been the two largest used substances in Waldwick and probably amongst high school students in general. So there's a lot of information about those, but I don't want anyone to think that doesn't mean there are other things that are going around. The biggest trend right now that's happening is prescription drug use. And what that means is that your children are pretty much taking anything and everything that they can find in the medicine cabinets. So a hydrocodone or an Oxycontin is going for about $15 to $20 a pill right now out there on the market, and we have seen that in our community. Every community in this area has seen that. Bergen County has seen it. So prescription drug use is on the rise, and the reason it's very alarming and concerning to me and to other student assistance counselors is because opiates, which is one of the largest prescriptions that are being stolen and sold, is often the gateway to heroin. And the reason for that is because heroin is an opiate-based substance. So when we can't afford the $15 to $20 hydrocodones and oxycontins anymore, we certainly can afford a $10 bag of heroin. And since we no longer have to inject it and we can simply snort it, it takes some of the stigma away. Heroin came back in the last 10 years in the form of sniffing heroin. So prescription drug use is probably the biggest and the largest concern out there for us. Alcohol, marijuana traditionally has always been around. Hallucinogens, sometimes. Not as much anymore. 10, 15 years ago, I would have told you that was a big part of it. 10 years, 5 years ago, even club drugs, the ecstasy, those types of things were very, very popular. Not around so much anymore. What we really have to keep our eyes on is the prescription drug use. And it's really generating a lot of cash flow for the drug dealers. So kids have real easy, they can get it very easily. So we really want to be aware of what you have in your medicine cabinet. Again, it's not just your children. You remember other people come to your homes as well. And a lot of times the kids don't know what they're getting and what they're taking. Sometimes they don't even ask. It's just pulled together and they just take whatever it is that they have there. Some of the prescribed medications for ADHD, for other legitimate mental health issues are also being sold by kids to other kids, crushed up, snorted, and used. Adderall, very big in colleges, things like that, because they're finding that these drugs that have legitimate uses in our homes, kids are able to sell for a lot of money. So that's probably the newest trend in the drug use. Every day I get a list of emails from the drug and alcohol councils on the new things that are coming out. And sadly, we can never fight all the new things that are coming out every single day. The other big trend right now, there are lots of marijuana-like substances that are not illegal. Herbs that are easily purchased online that have the same or similar effects to marijuana, like salvia happens to be one of them. They're easily purchased on the internet and they're not classified illegal drugs at the time, so kids can purchase them. However, the government has now put a temporary classification on them until they can figure out exactly how to take control of this. The most recent, bath salts. It's a designer drug created to look like bath salts, marketed and sold as bath salts. Easily purchased on the internet in a lot of different places. We, thank God, have not seen that in our district, haven't seen too much of it in this area, but it is out there. And they've also classified that right now because it's killed a couple of people. So every day, new things are coming out. Where there's a will, there's a way. If someone can make something out of it, they will. So when I talk to the students, I remind them that we need to be educated consumers. And if we're putting stuff in our body, we should really be thinking about what we're putting in there. So we as parents have to educate ourselves. And I'll try to keep updating you on things that come out and things to look out for. But again, the prescription drug use right now is probably the thing we have to keep our eye on the most, as well as marijuana and alcohol, which have always been the standards. So you'll see in the packet that I posted for you on the website a lot of information about those things. Not meant to scare anyone, not meant to make you think that we have a huge heroin problem or anything like that. But it's just basic education on what's current and what's trendy, not in Waldwick alone, but in our entire area, in Bergen County, New Jersey, and across the country. And I put a lot in there about the opiates only because that's the biggest brunt of the prescriptions that are being used at this time. So when we talk about that, our 10 panel that we had chosen includes some of the major, I could read them all to you, but for the most part, they're hard to even, some of them are hard to even pronounce. So obviously we'll be testing for marijuana, for THC rather. We'll be testing for stimulants, we'll be testing for depressants, we'll be testing for narcotics, and we'll be testing for some hallucinogens. So some of the club drugs that are still around, not as popular nowadays, but still around, like the ecstasy and stuff, will be included in that. So we'll be covering some of the more prevalent substances in all of those major drug categories, as well as an alcohol test. Even though alcohol is not in the system for very long, there are some tests that do detect it at a certain time span, so we'll be testing for that as well.